Welcome to another episode of the Modern Sage podcast. Today, we are still diving deep into the different energetics. We're going to focus on winter because we are still in winter right now. And the next episode, we're going to be focusing more on the springtime. So, both of these energies I find really important when it comes to balancing overall health. They're kind of the two that I look to in ways of just simplifying everything because they're so opposite in ways, right? You have winter, which is cold, and then you have spring or summer, which is warm and hot, right? So you're looking at warming foods versus cooling foods, energetics in the body as well. That could be more stuck and stagnant, that need to be cleared or need to be deeply nourished, and are lacking warmth and energy. So these are it's a easy way to look at the physical body and also using our world around us and making sure that we're eating seasonally and being in the rhythm of nature. Because as I said in previous episodes, if your internal body can mimic the external world, you'll find balanced health. So during the fall and the winter, this is a time to slow down and relax. Of course, we live in the modern world. That doesn't happen. The schedules go, and if anything, it speeds up because the holidays. What are you supposed to do? I don't really know. I struggle with it myself. One of the greatest things that you can do is using food to be something that you can help to regulate your physical body with and your nervous system with. And a lot of that comes down to having warm cooked foods. Okay. And that makes a lot of sense, right? When you think of winter, you're going to say, oh, I'll make a pot of chili, or I'll make some, pulled pork, or, meat falling off the bones. I'll put a roast in and roast veggies, a baked potato, or, all of those warming, cozy foods, right? And a lot of us get those cravings in the fall. Everyone wants to have their pumpkin spice in the fall. That's amazing because those are warming herbs. We're starting to crave that. That's a really good transition. And of course, with the pumpkin spice latte, that might not be the best avenue for those spices since it's just sugar. But if you bring in those spices elsewhere, like into your morning bowl of oatmeal or, whatever it is in your stews that you're making, add a cinnamon stick. It's delicious, right? And so cinnamon's really good at circulating the blood and creating movement. It's really good for the kidney element of the body. Like we've spoken about quite a few times, the kidney element is the one that actually dictates the blood flow in the body. So when we are fatigued, stressed, exhausted, those little adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys are depleting the kidney energy. And in doing so, the whole system starts to slow down for survival. But if we don't slow down, your body will just naturally start slowing down. Cinnamon can help calm and warm up the system as well. It's also really, when you put cinnamon on your tongue, you know how it gets really, it takes away all the saliva in your mouth because it's really astringent. So that astringent property is really good too for clearing out things in the blood, things in the body, helping wick things away. So that's just an example of one warming spice. While we're talking about that, I'm just thinking of rosemary. That's another one. It's really warming, really good for blood circulation, really good for memory. It actually will just go like right to the back. I think in the back of the brain. Now, I'm not an expert on all the brain anatomy, but in the back of the brain is where like kind of your oldest memories live. You're almost like your reptilian brain is more in the back, your more modern brain is in the front. But anyway, when you smell something and you get that trigger of memory, that goes way back. And rosemary is something that does that very well. It's really good for stimulating brain function and everything, as well as blood flow. It's a really amazing herb. Back in the day, I guess they would give rosemary, like in ancient Greece. They would give rosemary at dinner parties because it was the herb of remembrance. So when they gave you a sprig of rosemary, it was like, you will remember this dinner together. And I really love that. Anyway, so that's just kind of a cool little fact about some herbs, but we're talking about this kind of energy that's a bit slower, okay? And currently we're beyond the holidays right now. But it is something I was feeling so much as the new year was happening in January and this recent new year of on the lunar new year on that calendar. I keep feeling this feeling of like slow down and allow yourself to do nothing. Like, if you don't know if your calendar has a space to be empty, allow it to be empty. Don't try to fill it. Don't say, oh, we have nothing planned, on this Sunday. Let's go do this. It's like, just stay at home, you know, do something relaxing. I've picked up crocheting. So if I'm at home on a Sunday and we have, the Olympics on or football on or something like that, and we've had a nice morning, walking the dog and everything, I'll sit down and I'll crochet. So I picked up that new hobby and I'm really at the basic levels of it for this reason because I need to have something that I enjoy. It's mindless, it's meditative. The girls can talk to me while I'm still doing it versus reading a book. I'm doing that practice so that I can have some more downtime and it kind of draws me to it, right? To go do it myself. But this is that energy of winter. The reason this is so important is because if we don't do this now, the energy in the earth starts to speed up in spring and summer, right? It's a rising energy. So we see that in the springtime. Literally, the grass starts to grow, the buds on the trees come out. Like, you're not doing anything, no one's doing anything. The earth is rising in this energy. So as the earth is rising, whether you're sitting there or not, it's rising up in you. So if you don't rest in the winter, this energy comes up and it can be a lot and it can be really hard to keep up. And here we go. We keep running on this treadmill and we can't stop. And the spring and the summer really isn't the time to stop. It is the time to go. It is the time to maybe speed up, do things that, you were thinking about all winter long, right? So in the fall, we drop our leaves, right? And trees are so good at being a metaphor for this. We drop our leaves, we let go of what no longer serves us. It's so much easier said than done. A lot of that is a to-do list. A lot of that is, am I doing too much in my life? Do I need to cut back? And then so letting, or is there toxicity in my life? Whatever is not serving me, letting that go. And then like you're dropping your little acorns, right? Those are going to grow into trees in the next year. But they're not going to grow into a tree right now. They're just going to sit in the soil, right, all winter long. A squirrel might even help you and like dig it into the soil for you and pack it down, right? And that little acorn is going to sit there. So this is the time to sit there. This is the time to rest. This is the time to deeply nourish ourselves because when that energy starts to rise, now it's like being a hibernating bear. Now you have the energy, right, to go through the spring and the summer. And then you can be a bright and beautiful, new flower that is just gorgeous. But 2 months ago, in the middle of winter, it looked like everything around you was dead, right? And that's kind of what winter looks like. It kind of looks dead and it doesn't look beautiful all the time. And that's hard to do again in our modern world because we always have to be on. We always have to be looking like it's summer 24/7, whether it's your physical appearance or, most of the time it's your work ethic and your weekly regiments just go on and never stop. So this is the time to stop. This is the time to slow down. It's not too late. We still have time. The spring equinox isn't until March 20th, so we still have a few more weeks if you haven't yet done anything to help slow your body or nourish yourself. So let's talk a little bit more about the nourishment of this winter energy. Again, the last couple episodes we spoke on, warming, contractive energy. We want to go for those warming foods, right? Again, the soups, the stews, the bone broths. We're going to be looking at animal meats and fats. We're going to be looking at harder vegetables that grow underground, like beets and carrots and onions. So all of these things are going to be in our daily routine and having a warm breakfast in the morning versus like a cold bowl of cereal, right? That's a very different energy. Crunchy, dry, and cold, right? That's very hard on the digestive system, especially early in the morning, right before you're running out the door. You want to try to have something that is cooked and warmed and also is very protein based. Now, I don't really like to talk so much about like fat and protein and carbohydrates, but because that's how people understand food, I do reference it like that. But it's not ideally how I like to speak. But basically, saying is the morning is a really good time to be very nutrient dense. So, yes, proteins and fats are going to have that more of an effect of that on your body versus a lot of carbohydrates. And I love carbohydrates. They just are really quick burn, right? And it really does spike your insulin and all of that. It gives you that, really quick energy, but it doesn't last. The things that last are the protein and the fat. So, what I like to have in the morning, for example, is I like to have beans, an egg, and then usually some sauerkraut. If I have, any sausage or anything like that, I'll add that to it. Some sprouts, and maybe some avocado. So it kind of is like this little breakfast bowl, and it's always a bit different because I'm running around trying to pack lunches for two little girls and rushing them off to school. And like, I've noticed my pattern is not to eat, right? So a lot of moms, I think, can understand that. And if I do, I would just like pick whatever they didn't finish eating off their plates. But I did, and I do make them eggs every morning, and it's either with like a flax muffin or I'll even do eggs and bacon and avocado and maybe some toast, something like that. So if I make oatmeal, I make sure I put a lot of chia seeds in it, so it's like really hydrating, and they get more amino acids out of it, and it kind of stays with them a little bit longer because oatmeal is great, but it is also a quick burn, right? But if I do, I'm also serving it with eggs. So eggs are just my go-to, and I don't want to burn my girls out on it. I feel bad for them, but but it is quick and easy, and it really gets them the nutrients that they need for the whole day. So that's what I'm making them in the morning. And I've noticed at the times when I'm not doing my best, it's usually because I'm just finishing a little bit of what they're having. I'm standing up, I'm running around, and I'm leaving, and then I'm not really eating till like, 2 or 3 in the afternoon when I've like hit a wall. So obviously insulin, completely spiked, and I have nothing, in my body. So it creates more insulin resistance. But anyway, so it creates that cycle for me. But if I can do a good job, and that's when I get into these rhythms of doing a good job of nourishing myself, again, slowing down, right? Then I'm able to have the sustained energy. My body's functioning so well. I'm not holding on to excess weight. And that's kind of a funny thing. When we properly nourish our bodies, we don't hold on to excess weight. When I was really big, I was postpartum too. I was the biggest I've ever been. I kept thinking it was just going to come off. And luckily, I was really gentle with myself, thank goodness. But it was at my daughter's second birthday that I got kind of that feeling when I saw photos and I said, oh my gosh, I don't look like myself. I need to do something. And a lot of what I was doing was kind of what I was talking about, where I was just I wasn't taking the time to nourish myself. I was eating, little bits of their food. My body was just in survival mode, even though I cooked them healthy food. I wasn't eating enough. So my body, of course, was just holding on. It was an energy stagnation, right? I'm not bringing energy in, so everything's going to slow down, right? But the more I actually bring in, the more my body will actually move. It's a little counterintuitive from what we are taught, especially if we believe in the calories in, calories out method, which is terrible because it's so inaccurate. That's not how the body functions. So the more that I'm able to bring in, especially these warming, grounding foods, the better my body actually functions. So that is a lot to break down as well. I have to coach myself all the time doing it just because growing up in the 80s and 90s, we learned the opposite. We learned not to eat fat. We learned, not to eat and just restrict yourself, like if you want to be thin, that means you don't eat food. So if you're eating right now, like what are you going to do with all that? Like it's a hard thing to break. But the more you do it, you will see that the more your body will start to release what it no longer needs because it has the energy to do that, right? So, who is this winter eating for? It's for everybody, of course, especially women. And we are the ones who are eating in the summertime way. We're the ones eating the salad and the grilled chicken every day and having a juice or a smoothie. And trust me, I love fresh pressed juices. Like, that's amazing. There's a time and a place for that, right? We cannot be doing this 365. If we do, we burn out, right? That kidney element is exhausted. It's not circulating energy throughout the body. So now we're just depleted. And yes, we're also packing on the pounds. And it makes no sense because we're sitting here saying, well, here I am eating, a smoothie for breakfast, freezing cold in the middle of winter, and a salad for lunch, freezing cold in the middle of winter. And then dinner, maybe I'll make more of a balanced meal for my family or whatever. And I just don't understand why I still have a hormone imbalance. I have a thyroid condition. I have, fatigue. I have brain fog. All of these things, my gut health, I have gut distension. All of these things have everything to do with wintertime foods and the lack of them. Because when you think of bone broth, for example, we have all of the collagen, all of the gelatin, all of those amazing things everyone's raving about and wants to buy in powder form and put into their blueberry smoothie. You could just have it in a soup or a stew, right? Or cook the meat with the bone on and you're getting that into your food. All of that is going to be healing to your gut. And we want that on our skin, right? That elasticity, that's also the same thing going on in your gut. So the more we start to do that, the more our skin will be like that as well. It's so important for gut health. It's so important for mental health, right? Like our brain functions on fat. Okay, and so most of the time we're giving it glucose, really quick glucose, right? Through carbohydrates or maybe just sugar, maybe caffeine, whatever. And it's fatiguing the brain. When we're not eating in this wintertime way, our brain is starting to deteriorate. I mean, that's pretty massive. I just turned 38 and I am seeing how quick life goes and that and I don't believe I've taken my health for granted, but at the end of the day, I think we all do. When things are going fine, you kind of take it for granted. And things are, fine. It's just I'm really seeing, oh my gosh, if you really don't take care of yourself, you will, degrade in certain ways. And when you look at ancient cultures, that does not happen. So the whole, oh, I'm getting older, this is happening. We have to stop saying that. You look at ancient cultures, it does not exist. Back pain does not exist. Mental degradation does not exist. People are living to their hundreds, totally mentally cognitive and walking around and in the garden and cooking their own food. I mean, it's amazing. And what are we doing so wrong? Well, a lot of it starts with the fact that we're not nourishing ourselves. We need to deeply nourish ourselves, half of the year. And I live in a place that's super hot the majority of the time. It's not the tropics. Um, but even when it's really warm out, I need to cook in a warmer way, even though it might feel like springtime is already here, but it's kind of not because we still have almost a month left, right? So, literally, right now for lunch, I had a coconut curry. So, we'll talk about the energetics of that. Coconut, it grows in the tropics. It is a fat, but it is a more cooling fat because it grows in the tropics. It grows on a tree. It's also a plant, right? It's a plant-based fat. It's going to be more cooling than an animal-based fat, like butter. I do cook with butter all the time, right? I'm just saying for a day in the spring when I feel like I'm transitioning into these warmer months, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not having that beef stew for lunch that I made for dinner the night before. I'm now transitioning a little bit lighter. And in the curry is lemongrass, which is also, you look at it, it's really wispy and wavy, it has that bright, fresh flavor. That's more of an expansive, cooling energy, right? But at the same time, this has all been cooked. It's been cooked and stewed down, and it has ginger as a spice in there, garlic. A lot of these are also really warming spices. There's eggplant. What else was in there? Bell peppers. Those are more summertime. I wouldn't say that that's like the perfect, like there's no eggplant and bell pepper growing right now. But the idea of that is that it's more of an expansive, cooling type of way of eating. At the same time, it's very warming because it was cooked and stewed down. It also has chili in it, so it was spicy. And before coming on here, I was like blowing my nose a ton because it was really spicy. But that's another amazing thing because it's super clearing, right? That chili property, it's a very pungent, clearing energy to the body, which is amazing. So it's keeping my sinuses clear, it's clearing through my lungs. It's incredible. It's warming my stomach to get it stronger to digest. So that's an amazing thing to add to food too, is spice. It's the pungent energy in Chinese medicine. So it's very, very clearing. It's also really clearing to the heart energy, which is lovely. I'm just looking at the curry right now. Yeah. And so, I also added, there was pork in there too. So I had like my animal meat and it was really soft because it had been cooked for a long time. So that's just kind of like a transitional food, right? So, and that makes sense because it's Thai. So in Thailand, it's pretty warm, but they also cook in these warmer ways, but it's with more cooling style of ingredients, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like a transition food. But I always also say, because someone said to me the other day, especially where I live, when the weather could be literally 85 degrees one day and a high of 55 the next day and, a low of 30, like it's all over the place. She said, gosh, I just made a huge stew and like I ate it today, but oh, it felt so out of balance because it's so hot. And absolutely, that does feel completely out of balance. And I said to her, I said, well, the good thing is that you'll never regret over nourishing or overwarming yourself, especially in today's modern world, because we tend to be way too, vada, too airy, too all over the place, very scattered, go, go, go. So if we did do a little bit of extra warming or an extra grounding, that might be okay. I think we could get away with that versus maybe bringing in springtime foods a little bit too early. Another group of people this is really good for is postpartum women in pregnancy. Of course, you have expended so much energy throughout pregnancy. If you can eat in this way during pregnancy, you're going to be doing really well. The Weston A. Price Foundation is a really good resource to go for, just in general, but especially as a mom, because they really help you with how, to eat when you're pregnant, when you're breastfeeding, first foods for baby. You will notice in the Weston A. Price, which is based on Weston A. Price was a dentist, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I believe. And he traveled the world and studied indigenous cultures and looked at their dental health to see how their dental health was, how their overall health was, and saw in the traditional ancient cultures that were not influenced by the modern world had perfect dental hygiene, complete, like their teeth were great. There was no degradation at all. And he said, why is that? And he saw all over the world these consistent factors, obviously local foods. But it was the fat and the protein and all of these, really deeply nourishing and organ meats, all these deeply nourishing ingredients. And, when women were pregnant, they would have the liver of the animal given to the women, right? Or even before you were going to conceive and have children, that was given to you as a priority, right? The egg yolks from eggs, the fats from the animals, all of that was so prized and especially given to women, especially postpartum. And so, yeah, it's a real Weston A. Price is an amazing resource to use. But when you look at it, you see it's very based in this like deeply nourishing tradition. Oh, yeah, that's the name of their podcast too, Nourishing Traditions. If you want to check it out, it's a really good one. They talk about all different topics. So that is the energy of winter. And like we had talked about too, with the adrenal glands sitting on top of the kidneys, obviously those get so depleted in our modern life. So the more we nourish the kidney element, which resonates with the winter time. This is the time that they are open and ready to receive nutrients. The energy is ready to flow into the kidneys. We need to do that. This will also help with sleep, right? Think about having like a cozy meal before you go to sleep. Like there's nothing better, right? You just get a cozy, I don't know, stew or like a chicken, broccoli, and rice casserole or something like that. and you curl up and you feel so warm and cozy and you feel like you could just go to sleep, right? So that kind of stuff really helps with sleep too. Sleep also needs energy. So if you are lacking energy, it's going to be hard for you to go to sleep. And I think we've all experienced that. How am I so exhausted? But once I get into bed, I can't sleep. It's because we don't even have enough energy to fall asleep. So these foods are super deeply nourishing and grounding and will give you, and full of fat too, which is so soothing to the nervous system and to the brain. And so that will help put you to sleep as well. A really good herb for this is catnip. And catnip is exactly what it sounds like. It's a mint, part of the mint family. And yes, cats love it. Cats get a bit of a high off of it, and after they are done playing with it, they fall fast asleep. And catnip does the same thing in your body. So you can drink it, and it has more of this like energetic lift, and then it's followed by a really peaceful calm that can help put you to sleep because it's that energy. You need the energy to go to sleep. So catnip tea at night could be really helpful for that. We talked about the gut health. A little bit more about the gut health is when we think of the gut, we can't be monotonous with your gut. You can't be taking the same probiotic every day, year after year, saying, "Oh, I'm doing so good for my gut health because I take this really awesome probiotic that costs me $1,000." Right? Because it's the same probiotic that's made in the same factory or laboratory, the same ingredients, the same, cleanliness of the factory. Like you're not getting any biodiversity in that. I'm not saying taking a probiotic is a bad idea. It's just we have to think outside of the box or the pill. So, fermented foods are amazing. I just now, which is crazy, started making my own sauerkraut. I just was so intimidated. I don't know why. But it tastes so much better. And I always knew this to be true. But my daughters now help me make it. It's so dynamic and complex in flavors. We just massage it with some salt. It's not any more complicated than that. Put it in a mason jar, let it sit, and 3 days later, it's ready to go. And then I just pop it in the fridge and we eat it for, a few weeks or whatever. It's incredible. And when you do things like that, or even just eating sauerkraut or any fermented food in general, you're getting so many different variations from, the microorganisms within the cabbage that grew, hopefully in beautiful organic soil. So you're getting that, you're getting the salts, helping to break down the cabbage with your hands. So then your own microbiome via your hands are going into that. So then when all of the fermentation process happens, it's happening alongside your own microbiome. So you're creating a custom probiotic for yourself. And yes, I get my girls' hands in there too because I want them to be involved and make sure that, if they have a little bite or two of sauerkraut, then it's customized to them as well. Um, because even the soil is changing, right? In the seasons, the soil changes. Everything in nature is always changing. It changes slowly. You barely even notice it. But if you took a soil sample from the summer and took a soil sample from the winter, they're completely different. There's completely different nutrients in there. What is your gut doing? Is your gut changing like that? Most people's are not. Most people's are not able to change because they eat the same things all the time, all year round, and take the same supplements all the time. So it's really important that we create variation to improve the environment of our gut. Again, which should be mimicking the environment that surrounds it. Good. So I think I've covered a lot of, women really need to eat in the winter, like wintertime foods. It's so important for us with hormone health, hormone balance. It's really important for brain health, and to help with any degeneration, mental fog. I think a lot of that, and it happens so much more in women too. So we need to be really cautious of that. And I think so much of the 80s and 90s and 2000s that just are still with us of the low fat, low everything is really detrimental to our brain health. As we age, that's, so scary. So we got to get the fat back in. Animal, grass fed, go for it. Do it for years until you get tired of it and then say, okay, maybe I'll try some coconut oil now. go for the butter, go for the fat. We need to get that brain nourished. Yeah, mental fog, right? Weight loss. Um, so yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. So that's the energetics of winter. The reason it's so important is for us to move forward in the year is to have the energy to do so. So the next episode, I want to talk about the springtime and what to do in the spring, because this is my other favorite topic, which is cleansing. When you should cleanse, why you should cleanse, and if cleansing is right for you, and the benefits of doing it. But also, we don't want to do it if we didn't deeply nourish. So go do that now. Go deeply nourish for another couple weeks, and then we can cleanse together, and then we'll feel so much better. Thanks so much for joining me on the Modern Sage podcast. It was awesome chatting with you. If you liked this episode, please like it. Please also give me a follow on whatever platform that you listen to your podcasts on. If you have friends that might enjoy this, please pass it on to your friends. And I would love to hear from you. So a comment or a review would be lovely. And I'll see you next time on the Modern Sage podcast. Bye.